4 college students in Moscow, Idaho.
It's pretty traumatic when there's 4 dead college students who have been stabbed to death in one location.
The coroner saying today autopsies have been completed and the victims suffered extensive wounds after being stabbed multiple times with a large knife. Investigators now working to determine if the victims had defensive wounds or may have gotten the suspect's DNA on their bodies.
Well, looking to see if there are some clues that are on them, so some of the suspects' blood perhaps, or something under somebody's fingernails.
The coroner saying the autopsies have found the time of death sometime after 2 a.m. Investigators now reviewing this video, which they say shows 2 of the victims in a food truck just hours before the murder. Police also roommates were home and unhurt at the time of the murder and are actively cooperating with the investigation.
We're not just focusing just on them, we're focusing on everybody that may be coming and going from that residence.
Authorities say there was no sign of forced entry at the home. They think this was a targeted attack and are still searching for the murder weapon.
There's no threat to the community.
Meanwhile, a community in mourning.
Just because there's so many people here in this area who know them and love them, and I just want to shine a light on them.
While a mass murder is still on the loose.
Welcome back to my mental health and crime channel. My name is Huda London. This is for educational purpose only. This is the case of the Idaho quadruples. May the 4 victims rest in peace, condolence to the families, and may the correct justice be served. This was definitely a targeted attack. In the beginning, there was confusion if the house was the target or if it was one of the victims or all 4 victims that could have been the targets. In the beginning, it was said by the mayor that it was a crime of passion, but it wasn't. So there was a lot of confusing messages in the beginning, and there was someone out on the loose who did these horrific crimes. The evidence wasn't even collected properly. What could have happened that night that was so important to eliminate, to delete these 4 victims from this earth? They always say follow the money. We have the local cab driver telling the local news in Idaho, Moscow, that he drove many students to 1122 Kings Road to purchase rugs within the front, if you'll understand what I mean. These are college students. It's not like this would be the first time college students could be dealing and using. It does happen. Was there shakedown that night? In the beginning, if you remember this case, there was rumors going around that Maddie threw away rugs worth thousands of money. It could be true, it could be false. I just don't believe, it's not often you see a random attack that a total stranger comes to a house that's in the middle of a neighborhood, that has neighbors surrounding them, that has a dog, that has 5 roommates, and one of the roommates' boyfriend was there, who turned out to be one of the victims. Was this house bugged? Was there cameras inside this house? I'm just asking. Was there someone in the inside who was working with people on the outside? To unalive 4 people is not only a tragedy, I personally believe, although it's not important for the courts, I personally believe it's important to try and find out what was the motive to begin with. Then it makes it much more easier to understand who could have been targeted and who could have done these horrific crimes. I personally believe whoever did it is somebody who has been inside this house plenty of times, who's climbed up the steps, who's been inside the toilets, who's maybe had a peek inside the rooms or has gone inside the rooms. Could be one of the friends, could be one of the sororities helping the fraternities and the Sigma Chi boys. These are college students. They were having beefs that were brewing, I believe, like the 4chan said. It could have been sorority girls or maybe even the surviving roommates who envied all 4 victims. Kaylee and Maddie were seniors. Maddie got herself a fine job in Austin, Texas. She's looking forward to that. That means that would have been the end, complete end of her relationship with Jack D. The reason I always mention Jack D is because the mayor mentioned crime of passion. And let's not forget, Maddie and Kaylee spent their last hours in their life, of their life, at the Corner Club with Jack D, Adam, and the people at the Corner Club, like Jovito, and some of the people at the Grub Truck were at the Corner Club. I wonder if David Lott, the Sigma Chi guy, we saw him at the Grub Truck. He waited for the girls to enter, and he and his 2 friends, he nudged them on the shoulder so that they all turn away from the girls and hoodie guy when they're walking in. I wonder where they came from that night. Did they come from the party at the Sigma Chi? Was the other David maybe allegedly with Zan and E? Maddie looked really shocked when she saw David Lott when he came to grab his food. What was between number 9 and Maddie? He was waiting for Maddie to enter, and then he waved his hand. Maddie went directly to him. She told him, she whispered something in his ear, and then she went back. The guy went to the corner. He waved his hand. He got something from somebody, and while he waved up his ticket to give the guy in the counter in the grub truck to take his food, at the same time he put something in Maddie's mouth, allegedly. Nothing good was coming out of all the people at the grub truck near, especially these 2 girls. They're going to get you for them, Maddie, or we are going to get you for them, Maddie. What did Hoodie Guy mean by that? What did Maddie do? Could Maddie or Kaylee, or could both of them have known Brian Koberger? It's just a question. Could they have met him somewhere in Idaho, Moscow? Maybe he came to 1122 Kings Road because he knew one of the victims or one of the surviving roommates. Let's not forget, Koberger was on A-class drugs. He was an addiction for 5 years, so if he sobered up 5 years ago, he could have easily gone back to some drugs that are a bit milder. And he could have purchased it from the source, according to the cab driver. Everyone used to go to 1122 Kings Road to purchase things. I think that is what the university doesn't want the public's focus on. Because just for us, the public around the world, to watch the law enforcement body cams of them coming to the to the roommate's house and speaking to the roommates, and everyone was disobeying the police no matter what, everyone was partying. But what was happening inside? The police was not bothered to go get a warrant or to maybe monitor the house and check if anything else was happening. Quite strange. The 4 victims may they rest in peace. The hands are bagged for future forensic evidence. I wonder what they found under the nails, especially Xana Kernodle, and maybe Kaylee too, because they allegedly had defense wounds, so they fought for their life. Where was Xana and E that night? So if E was with these triplets at the Betty Ball and with Maisie, their sister's friend, where was Xana at that timing? Was she at home? Her father said he spoke to her at midnight. I wonder if E was home with her at that time. Or if they both decided to go to the Sigma Chi party, like we heard. And a fight broke out there with the Davids and Xana and E. That is at least what we've heard, and what I believe completely is possible. I believe it wasn't only one person, there were more people, and there were more weapons, because it was clearly stated from the start that Kaylee and Maddie had stab wounds. But the couple was a sharp edge weapon was used on them. So I wonder, was it golf sticks? Because I noticed some of E's golf sticks was missing when the police were carrying the golf kit, the whole kit, and they were putting it up the truck. But they said they never found the weapon. So whatever was used on these poor 4 victims was taken by the suspect or the suspects. What could have been the motive? Was it the 4chan? Because strangely enough, if you take out Kaylee, and if you just go with these 3, these were the 3 people that the 4chan named. The 3 targets they had was Maddie, Xana, and eaten. Quite strange. It wasn't Kaylee, although they used bad names for Kaylee, and I think Kaylee was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. You can imagine somebody on steroids, all the symptoms, all the aggressiveness, and if David L. Lodge allegedly got cussed about steroids, I'm sure he uses it for sports purpose and all, and allegedly there were other foul things said to each other. Maybe he really took it to heart and decided to do something that night. I really believe the Davids were involved with the couple, and the Jacks and maybe organization were definitely involved with Maddie and Katie. I don't know what Maddie and Katie found out, but whatever they told Adam, I believe got them into this mess.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's important for us. I mean, the reason we've agreed to do this is there's some misinformation out there, and that's been hard for us. And that's why we, as a family, talked about it and agreed to do this, because the things that are being said are 100% not true. There's not drugs involved. There's not some weird love triangle. Ethan stayed the night at his girlfriend's house, who was one of 5 girls who lived in the home. And it's just important that people let the criminal part of it try to work itself out, and that these kids, all of the kids were just really good, great kids. So, I mean, the light of the school, I mean, everybody knew them.
One of them, I believe, was his girlfriend was also killed. Is that correct?
Yes, Xana. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were in the same room.
And I think that's all the questions I have, but I really do appreciate you guys sharing more about Ethan so we can understand more about him and share more about him with, Western Washington and the community here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Dark hour, I can tell you that. I don't know, whatever it is. This is something you wake up and you realize it's never going to go away. And it's a very different, 2 a.m. is a dark hour, I can tell you that. Then you wake up and you realize it's never going to go away. And it's a very different, 2 a.m. is a dark hour, I can tell you that. We're all.
Pretty traumatic when there's 4 dead college students who have been stabbed to death in one location.
The coroner saying today autopsies have been completed and the victims suffered extensive wounds after being stabbed multiple times with a large knife. Investigators now working to determine if the victims had defensive wounds or may have gotten the suspects' DNA on their bodies.
Well, looking to see if there's some clues that are on them, some of the suspects' blood perhaps, or something under somebody's fingernails.
The coroner saying the autopsies have found the time of death sometime after 2 a.m. Saying the autopsies have found the time of death sometime after 2 a.m.
So the deaths happen somewhere after 2 a.m. The police said it happened between 4:05 to 5:25 or 4:25, between 4:05 to 4:25 or 4:30. According to the coroner, this happened after 2 a.m. And according to E's mother, 2 a.m. is the hardest time for her family. I always believe that the truth lies in the beginning. I've always heard that this house that was just 2 blocks away from 1122 Kings Road was where Hunter and Emily live. But then again, I've heard That's where Jack Showalter lives. So they all live near 1122 Kings Road. I wonder what the detectives were doing, standing and viewing the roof and the windows of this house. Let's not forget, Hunter Johnson was the first person DM or BF or both of them called before they even called the police. 911, before they called 911. Isn't that strange? I wonder who did he call? The 911 call is under the gag order, but let's not forget, the 911 operator said she could hear many people's voices and she heard a lot from the background. So there were a group of people. That's what even the airmail article said. There were a group of people standing outside and inside the house when the police came. 2 people went upstairs and found Kaylee and Maddie, 2 boys, before the police even came. 2 men that were outside. It could have even been the suspects for all we know. Why would they take 8 hours to call the police? Something's not right. They could be victims, but if they were texting each other, that shows that they aren't in a complete state of shock. Didn't they need to use the toilet for 8 hours? Pay attention to where Jack D lives. Literally 2 blocks away from the girls. You can see that White House straight down. Why was he not picking up Maddie and Katie's calls? He said he was asleep, but at 1:35, he was at the corner club. That's when he left. How quickly did he fall asleep? His witness is allegedly Adam L. Lauder. And Adam Lauder and Jack D are basically each other's witnesses. Can they be trusted? Isn't it strange that Kaylee and Maddie, the last time we heard them speaking with Hoodie Guy, when they're walking towards the grub truck, they mentioned Adam. Kaylee said, Maddie, what did you tell Adam? And Maddie said, I told Adam everything. So Adam was mentioned, and Adam and Jack D are roommates. Why was Jack D ruled out last? Why was Jack D ruled out last? Adam and Jack D saw Katie and Maddie at the grub truck. The girls were at the grub truck from 10 p.m. to 1:30 p.m. We saw Maddie and Katie talking to someone who looked exactly like Jack D. I believe we can literally hear the girls yelling for help. If there was a fight for people's life, I'm sure Jack D knew about it. Look at all the white cars parked there. A bit far to see, but he always has a Hyundai, Elantra parked in front of his house. But that disappeared very early on in this case. And he has a white pickup car. He sold one of them. Crime of passion. Strange. That's the mayor's words, not my words. And I find it still interesting that the front door was left wide open. Who left from the front door? If the suspect came from the sliding door, like the police believe, are they trying to say he left from the front door? But that means Dylan is lying once again. So who left the front door open? Was it BF who ran? And did maybe Brian Christopher Koberger see her for some reason? Is that the exculpatory evidence he has? Or that she has? What was going on in that empty room there? Were they storing stuff there? What was actually going on in this house? It was a party house. We've seen Emma Bailey in this house. Was someone inside this house selling or dealing, allegedly? Was there informer inside this house, allegedly? Because if the surviving roommates were victims, the police would have said it in their first and second press conference. 7 weeks later is when they said that DM was not sleeping in the first floor. They didn't even apologize for the mistake or clarify it. They said no, she actually saw a guy with bushy eyebrows, and she heard somebody that sounded like Kaylee playing with her dog. That's why I believe Kaylee was sleeping in her room with Murphy, and Maddie is sleeping in her room, and Kaylee must have heard maybe the fight from downstairs, and she ran to Maddie's bed, and they must have sat and they must have been just closing their eyes and yelling and all, wondering what's happening downstairs, and maybe somebody ran upstairs. I believe it is a couple of people who did this, and I really believe that the surviving roommates know more than they are actually saying. Definitely. Could the surviving roommates have opened the door and let the suspects in and wait? They could have been scared for their lives too. We don't know. I'm sure all these crimes, the whole quadruples, were done by people who knew these 4 beautiful victims. And I really believe that it's somebody or some people who've been to this house before. Money could be the motive. Anything could be the motive. Maybe the house was the target, like the prosecutor William Thompson said. Could this have anything to do with the Mad Creek? I haven't heard very good things about them. Could Maddie and Xana have been doing some under business for them? Or did the 4 victims, one of them, find out some information that the Mad Creek, allegedly, or the Corner Club is involved with drugs or something, and somebody wanted to delete these 4 victims? I hope they change the venue, and I hope we get to the bottom of this. All it takes is for Brian Christopher Koberger to say that he knew the victims and he used to party in the house. What are they going to do then? They've demolished the house. He becomes one of the people who are partying in the house. Besides church DNA, they don't have any proper DNA to connect him to the crime scene. They don't even have the weapon that was used in these crimes. They're so focused on people who were driving that night, while they should be more focused on people who were on foot that night. Like the 4 figures, like the boys in the band field, watching the pictures of Kaylee, who looks like she's sitting in her bed, I showed you that a year ago, and her father spoke about it and her mother in November. 6 months after I showed you, they said that Kaylee was found sitting on the sitting position. I really believe Kaylee was sleeping in her bed. She's playing with Murphy, or she's trying to get Murphy maybe to sleep, because DM said she heard somebody that sounded like Kaylee was playing with a dog. So that proves Kaylee was sleeping in her room. And Maddie was sleeping in her room. Kaylee was sleeping with her dog Murphy. She heard the yelling, or she heard somebody attacking maybe Maddie, and she ran to save her. But it was too late. There could have been two that went upstairs and two that went downstairs. The reason I am not 100% sure that Brian Christopher Kohlberger is completely innocent is the things that don't make sense. Why would he come back the next day between 9 to 9:15? His phone pinged there. That's quite strange. Why would he come back there? Is it for the knife sheet? I don't think so. He would have realized that as soon as he went home, as soon as he left the house. Maybe he lent his knife sheet to someone or left it there. And he went to collect it when he understood what the surviving roommates were up to. Could be possible. What is sad is if Brian Christopher Kohlberger walks away, just say under the Brady Ziegler order or something like that, with lack of evidence, and it becomes a mistrial, hung jury, whatever, how would these 4 poor victims' families get justice for them and their loved ones? How would these 4 victims get justice? This case was handled in a very wrong fashion from the very beginning. The FBI entered this case on the 17th of November, and the quadruples happened on the 13th, and DM and BF took 8 hours to call 911. Count all those things in and imagine how tampered the crime scene was. Who was DM calling? Because half of the students, or many of the students, knew about the quadruples before the vandal alert was put out, or before even 911 was called. Make that make sense? This was somebody who knew the house well. Someone on foot, I believe. I believe it's the Sigma Chi boys. The 4 figures running, jogging, whatever they're doing at 3:12. Pay attention to all the things that are happening. 3 o'clock, the black truck is driving downstairs in front of Taylor Avenue, in front of the police. When the police asked the 3 young men to stop and they put their torch on, the 3 young men continued to go. What do they have in their hands? What do we know? What could they have thrown in the grass, and they could have gone back and got it later? Maybe it was the weapon itself. Could that be possible? Because Anna and E could have been deleted between 2 to 2:30. So those 3 boys, 2 of them had on Van shoes. You have one of those 3 boys and Saeed who had on Van shoes and bushy eyebrows. I don't like to leave any rock unturned. We need to check everything, and we need to open our eyes. No one is immune to this. They know exactly what happened, and these 4 souls, may they rest in peace, deserve the correct justice. Scott Green is busy making books. Howard Blum is busy publishing his books after he's done his airmails. I have nothing against people's opinions, but I think it's just fair enough to wait for the court and the trials to be over. It's not fair for Brian Christopher Koberg and his family, and it's especially not fair for the 4 victims and their families. You can see that Steve Gonsalves doesn't like that. Howard Blum is just adding. He's a storyteller. He writes fictions and true stories in a fiction character way. But these are not fiction figures or characters. These are real people with real lives, with real families, real loved ones, real siblings, real lives that they had that was cut short by university students because the university staff wasn't taking charge of what was going on, although these 3 students lived off campus. Police knew about the parties. They were warning them all the time. They were in fact telling them, the police officer told Kaylee, I don't want to come back and give you, this is a warning, I don't want to come and give you a penalty because then I'll have to give you a $300 fine. And if I give you a $300 fine, isn't it better that you keep that $300 to go buy yourself some beer? Can you all believe that? That is what the police were advising these young students to do. We don't know what they were selling in the house because there was always people coming in and out. We saw Emma Bailey coming in herself and going out. When she was asked by the police, who lives here, she says, I don't know. No one seems to know who lives in that house, but they all are there comfortably partying. What was actually going on in 1122 Kings Road? I believe that is one of the reasons, honestly, that the families, besides the Gonsalves, are not talking. They know that when the trial starts and maybe when the truth comes out, we will find out that someone was actually dealing from this house. Someone was actually into stuff that wasn't good. And maybe the other roommates knew about it. Maybe that's what Maddie told Adam about. That DM was doing rugs or BF in the house. That she's going to snitch on them. And maybe DM and BF are working with the 2 Jacks and with Adam and with the Davids. We don't know. But something to think about. They waited for the lights to go off. They did it in 19 minutes, like they said they would do it in the 4chan. Anonymous person said. Strange. 90 minutes. They said one person would do the wet job, but one person couldn't have unalived 4 people. So I believe there are 2 sets of groups. One was for the couple between 2 to 2:30. They all could have been taken down after each other. But I believe there was more than one person who did this. Please let me know what you think. And I hope you'll have a lovely weekend. May the 4 victims rest in peace, and may the correct justice be